This class is brought to you by the LA Care and Blue Shield Promise Community Resource Centers. The centers are a place to help you be active, healthy, and informed. We hope you enjoy this virtual class.
Hi kids, how are you? My name is Sonia Guzman. Thank you for joining me for today's cooking class. Today we are going to make French toast. Are you familiar with French toast? It is basically bread dipped in an egg mixture, which we are going to be preparing today in this glass container. And then the bread is pan fried. They're usually cooked in butter, but we will be using cooking spray for today. French toast is usually enjoyed for breakfast, but you can actually have it at any time of the day. Now, French toast is traditionally made with a loaf of bread. So the loaf of bread is cut into slices, and then that is used to make French toast. We are going to be using sliced bread, as this is easier to use since we don't have to worry about cutting it into slices. Now, just like pancakes, French toast are usually enjoyed with some sort of sweetener. It could be honey, it could be syrup. We are going to be using today agave nectar. Here is our agave nectar. And what we are going to do today is that we are going to combine the agave nectar with sliced strawberries. And that way, it'll help us make our French toast a little bit healthier, since we will then use less of the sweetener and we will actually combine it with some fruit. So hopefully you're excited about this recipe. I can't wait for you to try it. So before we start cooking, let's practice our basic cooking rules. We are going to wash our hands. We are going to pull our hair back if we have long hair. And then we are going to roll up our sleeves if we have long sleeves to make sure that they don't come into contact with our food. Also, remember to wear your apron if you have one. Your apron is going to help prevent any food from getting on your clothing. And also, don't worry about writing the recipe down or the instructions or anything regarding the recipe. At the end of this presentation, you will have the recipe there on the screen. And so what you can do is you can just take a phone, take a picture of the recipe, and there you have it ready to go. We are now ready to get going with our recipe. Let me first tell you about all of the ingredients that you are going to need for today. We have strawberries, we have cinnamon, we have milk. This one is actually soy milk. You can use soy, you can use almond milk, regular milk, whichever kind you prefer. We have an egg, agave nectar, and then we have whole grain bread. Now, here is the symbol that you want to look for on the packaging of your bread to make sure that it is whole grain. Making sure that this symbol is on your bread packaging is important because it ensures that you are going to get all of the nutrients from the whole grain. These nutrients are going to keep you healthy and strong, and they are going to help you feel full after you finish your meal. Now let's talk about agave nectar. So this is the agave nectar here. You can't see it, but it basically looks the same as honey. I don't know if you are familiar with it or not, but agave nectar is a substance that is derived from agave, which is a plant. And this plant is found in different parts of southern United States, South America, and also Latin America. The way that agave is made is by boiling the sap from the agave plant into a syrupy liquid. The liquid that results is sweet and can be used for cooking. It's also used as a substitute for honey, as I mentioned, which is what we are going to be doing today. And as I also mentioned, we're going to be mixing it with our strawberries to make a strawberry syrup. So we're going to start by making our syrup. So let me first put on some gloves. I'm going to be using these today to prepare our food. And what I'm going to do is I am going to cut my strawberries into small pieces. Now you can use fresh strawberries and you can also use frozen strawberries, whichever one, both are just as good. If you use the fresh strawberries, then what you want to do is what I'm going to do, which is just basically take the strawberries, cut them into small pieces. And if you use the frozen strawberries, then what you can do is you can just take a fork and just mash it frozen. Now, if you are going to be using fresh strawberries, make sure that you wash them first and remove the little stems. But washing them is really important because you want to make sure that you remove any dirt that they may contain. Once you wash them, go ahead and remove all of the water, rinse them, and again, just make sure that they don't have any dirt. To wash your strawberries, place them in a bowl. If you're going to use soap, make sure that it is soap that is adequate for fruit. Leave them there for a little bit, soaking, removing all the dirt, and then go ahead and drain them and rinse them, and then they are good to go. Now my strawberries, I already washed them and I already rinsed them, so now I just need to cut them into small pieces. And you can cut them as big or as small as you want. So some fun facts about strawberries. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but strawberries actually look like they have little seeds on the outside. So these little seeds are actually the plant's ovaries. And every little seed that you see here is technically a separate fruit that has a seed inside of it as well. I thought that was pretty neat. I just thought you'd like to know that too. Just a little fun fact. Now strawberries, besides being delicious, they're also kind of like a fun fruit. You can eat the strawberries just like that. You can eat them with yogurt. You can eat them with some dark chocolate. You can mix it with other fruits and make a fruit salad. You can blend them into a smoothie, add them to your lemonade, or even blend them to make some popsicles. So it's a really fun fruit. You can eat it in many different ways. Just depends on you, how it is that you want to enjoy them. Once we're done cutting all of our strawberries, then what we are going to do is we are going to place them back in the bowl, and then we are going to add the tablespoon of agave nectar, which I have over in my other little bowl. And then what's going to happen is that the strawberries are just going to start releasing their juice. And that juice is going to combine with the nectar, with the agave nectar, to create our delicious syrup that we're going to be using for the French toast. So all of my strawberries have been cut. So now I'm going to place them back into the bowl. Now the other thing too that you might have noticed is that I'm actually cutting my strawberries with the butter knife. And this is important because perhaps you might not be comfortable with the knife or just not old enough to use a knife. So I just want to show you in this way that you can actually use a butter knife to cut the strawberries. It doesn't have to be a sharp knife. So this is something that should be manageable. Now, if you just are not comfortable using knives at all, then you can definitely ask an adult for help. But you want to make sure that whatever you decide to do, that it's safe and that it's also fun. All right, so my strawberries are in the bowl. I'm going to put this over here, my dirty dishes. Then I'm going to grab a spatula. And with my spatula, I'm just going to pour my agave nectar in here. Use the spatula to help me. And then I mix it together. And that is it. And so see, we used 1 tablespoon of agave nectar for our 4 French toast rather than pouring a bunch of sweetener onto our French toast. Okay, so that way, as I mentioned, we are creating a healthier version of our French toast. So we're going to leave that there on the side. Let me put this over here as well, rinse my hands real quick. Okay, now we are ready to move on to our French toast. So let's first make the egg mixture. So I'm going to grab a fork, again, just to show you that you don't need any kind of special tools or equipment to make your French toast. So the fork or the whisk, I can use either one to first whisk my eggs. So I'm going to go ahead and crack the egg into this bowl. You want to make sure that whichever container you use for your egg mixture, that it has a large base. And the reason that we want it to have a large base is so that when we take our bread and we dip it into the mixture, it actually fits, okay? If we get a round bowl, then it might be a little bit harder to dip our bread. So we are going to be using this glass container because it has a large base. So I'm going to go ahead now and mix the egg just gently, okay? As I mentioned, the reason I have the fork is to show you that this can be done with the fork. If you have a whisk, then you can go ahead and use a whisk. If you don't have a whisk, you don't need to worry about it, okay? You can just use the fork. Okay, so there's my egg. Now I'm just going to add my teaspoon of cinnamon, my ½ cup of milk, and that's basically it. there's my egg mixture there. Now, I'm just going to combine all the ingredients together, and it is pretty much good to go. Very, very simple. Okay? Okay, our egg mixture is ready. So now what we are going to do is we are going to move over to the stove to prepare our food. I'm going to take with me the egg mixture and my slices of bread, and then I have some cooking spray over by the stove. I have my skillet and I have a spatula. So let's go ahead and move over to the stove. Okay, so we are now here at the stove, and you'll notice that I sort of set up like stations. I have the bread, the egg mixture, and the pan. So I am basically going to take the bread, dip it into the egg mixture, and then place it in the pan. So first I am going to turn on the stove. And what I want is I want a medium to low heat. I don't want it to be too high because I want to make sure that the French toast has the opportunity to cook completely. As I mentioned as well, we're not going to be using butter to make our French toast, but if you want to use butter, you can go ahead and do that. We are going to be using a cooking spray. Now, as soon as we start cooking, I'm also going to show you how to know when it is time to turn your French toast. So how do you know when the first side has cooked and it's ready to be flipped? So we're going to warm up our pan. Once it's warm, we're going to go ahead and coat it with some cooking spray. Now we're going to take the piece of bread and we're going to dip it fully into our mixture. You can use tongs or you can use a spatula. You can use your hand, but if you use your hand to dip the bread, make sure that you use just one hand, that the other one is free and it's clean, and if you need to touch anything else, you can do so with your other hand. If you choose to use your hand to dip the bread, make sure that you wash your hand thoroughly with soap and water after you have placed the bread in the pan. So I'm going to go ahead and use my hand. I'm going to take my bread. I'm going to dip it into the egg mixture. I can go ahead and flip it. Let it soak for a little bit. Let it absorb some of that egg mixture. And then once it's ready, I go ahead and I get the piece of bread. I let it drip just a little bit, any excess egg mixture. And then I'm going to place it in the pan. I am going to try to fit 2 pieces. So my second piece, I place it in the bowl with the egg mixture. Flip it. Let it soak. Absorb all of that yummy cinnamon flavor. And then I place it also in the pan. So I'm going to let these 2 pieces cook. So as I mentioned, I'm going to show you how to know when the French toast is ready for you to flip them. So what you want to do is you want to lift the corner of your French toast. And if you notice, just like on this one, that the French toast has a nice dark color, then that means that it's ready to be flipped. So see how it got that nice dark color? That's your sign that it's ready. If it's too light, like if it still looks sort of like this top side here, then that could mean that the egg hasn't fully cooked, and we don't want that. We want to make sure that the egg is fully cooked before we flip the French toast. So see how beautiful they look? So that's what we're looking for, okay? We're looking for that brown toasty color. Now, as I had mentioned also earlier, whole wheat French toast is a wonderful meal because it gives you vitamins, it gives you minerals, and it gives you fiber. Remember we mentioned this when we were talking about the little symbol that you want to find on your packaging? Now, since it also has egg and it has milk, It's also going to be providing protein and it's going to be providing calcium, both of which are important to your growth and development. Protein also provides energy. So if you have this as breakfast, it can help you have lots of energy for your day. Okay, so now we're going to check on our other side. Make sure that the French toast has that nice dark color. And it looks like it does. Just gonna give it a few more minutes, or maybe just like half a minute, just to completely cook. In the meantime, I'm going to grab a plate so I can put these French toast on the plate and cook our second batch. Okay, so I'm going to place these French toast that are now ready on the plate, and I'm gonna go ahead and make my second batch. As I mentioned earlier, go ahead and spray your pan again, because remember, we're using the spray, we're not using butter. So take your spray, coat your pan. Now it's ready for our last two pieces. So we're gonna dip it into the egg mixture. Let it soak a little bit, absorb that egg mixture. Turn it, let the other side absorb the egg mixture. And then place it in the pan. Let it drip, and there it goes into the pan. And then we go with our second piece. I'm gonna move this over here. And bringing the egg mixture next to your pan will help you keep your area clean, because you can go directly into the pan. There's no chance of that dripping onto your stove or anything like that. Okay, so now these two pieces are cooking, and you'll notice that to flip the French toast, you want to make sure that you hold on to the pan, okay, hold on to the handle, and then with your spatula, grab the French toast, lift it, and then flip it, okay? But you gotta make sure you hold on to the pan so it doesn't move as you are trying to grab the French toast with your spatula. You can move your French toast every so often just to make sure that they are not sticking. Okay, so again, we're going to flip. First, make sure that the bottom side has cooked. That's pretty brown. That's a golden brown too. So now again, hold on to the handle, grab the bread from under, and just flip. Flip quickly, grab it, and flip. And we're gonna let that side cook. We want to make sure that we are not eating any raw eggs. Now, the recipe, as you are going to receive it at the end of this presentation, is for 4 slices of French toast. So if you want to make more, then you just need to make sure that you multiply the ingredients by however many you are going to make. So for example, if you want to make 8 slices of French toast, then you want to double all of the ingredients as they are listed on the recipe. Okay, let's go ahead and check on our French toast. Still needs a little bit of time. Now, how did I know that it still needed a little bit of time? Because one of the corners, you can tell, is still a little bit light, and so in color. And so that tells me that it needs just a little bit more time. Okay, our French toast is now ready. So now I'm going to grab these two and also place them on the plate. And now I'm going to take you back over to the counter to show you what your finished plate is going to look like. So our French toast is now ready. That was pretty simple, right? This is definitely a very easy recipe to make. So now let me show you what this is going to look like. So if I wanted to plate my French toast just like this, I take a piece, I place it on the plate, and then I go ahead and I grab some of my strawberry syrup. As I had mentioned, the strawberries, you'll notice, they release their juice. And so now I have this yummy syrup, okay? Strawberries, fresh strawberries, and agave nectar. I'm gonna go ahead and just place a scoop of the strawberries on the French toast, and then I am going to scoop just a little bit of the syrup and also pour it onto the French toast. Like that, okay? So that's one way that you can serve your French toast. The other way would be, and this is just kind of a fun way, you take the French toast, so for example, I'll take this piece here, and then what you can do is you can cut it into pieces. This is, for example, like if you are kind of on the go, you need to take your French toast with you in the car, cut it into pieces like this, and then you can actually place them in a cup, like so. And then just add a little bit of the syrup to the cup, so kind of use it as a dipping sauce. There you go. And now your French toast is ready to go with you wherever you need to go. Now, if you don't prefer strawberries, let's say you want bananas, blueberries, or just any other kind of fruit, you can do that as well. You can mix that fruit, whichever fruit you like, with the agave nectar and make that your syrup. So you don't have to use strawberries, that's just what we use today for our recipe. Okay, so with that, we have reached the end of today's cooking class. Let's review what we learned. We prepared French toast using whole grain bread, and we served it with the fruit syrup. We prepared our syrup with fruit and agave nectar instead of honey or pancake syrup. And this was to help you learn about a different way in which you can prepare your French toast, and in this way make them a little bit healthier, a little bit more nutritious. We used fresh strawberries, but frozen strawberries are just as good. And we also used whole grain bread instead of white, and we discussed the little symbol that you want to look for to make sure that your bread is whole grain. We also discussed the option of using a loaf of bread instead of bread that is already sliced. With a loaf, you would actually have to cut it yourself. We mentioned that whole grain bread has a lot of vitamins and minerals and fiber, and the fruit that we used in our syrup has all of those nutrients as well. And the egg and the milk that we used for our French toast is a good source of protein and calcium. So today, you not only learned to make a delicious meal, but also one that is very nutritious. Now, remember to ask an adult for help if you need it, particularly with cutting the fruit, cutting the bread if you choose to, and also with the stove. And don't go away, the recipe and instructions are coming up. Thank you so much for joining me. We look forward to seeing you virtually again next week and at one of our resource centers as soon as we can. Until then, stay active, healthy, and informed.